Good morning, fellow growers, fellow gardeners. In case we haven't met before and this is the first time, my name is Andy. I am the founder of Meg's Edible Landscapes located right here in Denison, Minnesota. We're about 15 minutes east of Northfield. Northfield, Minnesota is where the infamous Jesse James gang was captured. And there's a whole history that will be retold here in a couple weeks in the defeat of Jesse James Days, located in our neighbor town, Northfield, Minnesota. Today, I have a special treat for you, and if you could drop in the chats if the sound is okay, that's something that I did a quick sound check, but I want to make sure that we're doing just fine. Okay, good. Sound's on, working. Fantastic. I'm adding a couple other electronic devices to today's live stream, so please give me feedback on how that works from your end. I did do a test, so everything appeared to work, but it's live, so you never know what's going to happen, right? We try for the best. Today, I have a really special live stream garden experience for you. And when I say garden experience, I mean a garden experience. So if you've been following this channel for any amount of time now, you know that I recently this year shifted the business into senior living. And I have a program that I'm going to demo for you today. This is the special project, Shawnee. If you were wondering last night, this is the special project that I was up till after midnight fixing or finishing. I haven't ran through it for end to end. So I was saving that for today because I could absolutely use all of your guys' help and gals' help to help me fine tune this program. So the programs I run with senior living, they're in-person live workshops. I haven't figured out how to clone myself. I think we're getting really close on the technology in today's day and age with science and AI and advancements, but I still haven't figured out to clone myself. So in order to get around that hiccup or that roadblock, I'm developing kits that I can actually mail to my clients that are outside my driving range here in the Twin Cities. Eventually, I want to be able to ship these kits over state lines and potentially up into Canada. So I'm looking at you, JBot. If you have any senior living communities in your area up in Ontario, I would love to hear about them. They might actually be interested in what we're about to do here today. So without further ado, I want to introduce today's program. I updated and uploaded a couple of the documents, and when I switch cameras, you'll see what I'm talking about. But the first one I want to share with you is this one right here. So Shawnee Grows, I did catch you, I think this morning, just after midnight on the live stream that you're on. I was asking about dill plants. So today we're going to be talking about dill. And as you can see with the graphic that I have up on the screen, this is something that's going to be coming into this kit later this week. And for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I'm going to be demoing this exact kit at my clients' locations with senior residents, and that could be assisted living, skilled nursing, or dementia care. I have all three of those groups represented in my beta testing sites. But since this is a kit, I can actually drop this in the mail and ship it across the state, which is what I intend to do on Monday morning. So uh, throughout the program today, the live stream, if something doesn't make sense or you see some errors, I would love to get the feedback from you because these are the nitpicky things that I need to fix before I drop these in the mail on Monday morning. So what I did a couple days ago is I reached out to about a dozen of my current clients. They're mostly within Twin Cities. Some of them are on the outskirts. I don't think I've shared this before, but I have a 75-mile radius of where I'm at. So if we go outside 75 miles, I have to make a special trip if I do go out to a senior living community. But my goal is to stay within that 75 miles. That's basically an hour drive from where I'm at. And then it prevents the whole day of driving to do a deal activity. So this is pretty exciting, and this workshop kit idea came about because I've been trying to solve this problem of that one that I just shared with you about not driving 6 hours to northern Minnesota up to the Canadian border, or potentially even sending these over the state lines to other states, to senior living communities. And I was trying to figure out a way that we can bring the garden experiences that we've been running this year, but be able to do it in a shelf stable manner to where I don't have to worry about uh, produce molding or rotting, and something that would be engaging for a senior resident and also therapeutic. That's another angle that I wanted to share with you, is that I am going, I guess you could say I dove head deep into the therapeutic horticulture pool most recently, and I shared last weekend that I'm going to be returning to college here next month already. I just registered for a couple classes to really dive deep into therapeutic horticulture, what that looks like, how to set up these workshops. And just so you know, I want to share with you before we get going on this beta test kit, is that I all along this summer, I've been reaching out to therapeutic horticulturalists, and there's different levels. If you're unfamiliar, if this is a new term to you, that's fantastic, because I wanted to share a little bit before we dive into the deal activity today, is that just like other professionals or other professions where you might have the medical doctors or nursing, for example, you have different levels or different skill sets, different credentials that get met up with that skill set or that job title. It's no different than the therapeutic horticulture world. So the very first program that I'm going to be entering and studying is the Therapeutic Horticulture Practitioner Certification. That's kind of like the entry level into the therapeutic horticulture world. Uh, Now, the way the field is set up, I don't necessarily have to have that credential. That is why I've been able to run these programs. But I've made no claim to say that I bring in any type of clinical therapeutic value or any type of information or any type of structure to the workshops that I'm running, because I'm frankly not qualified, and that would be inappropriate for me to make any therapeutic claims. But the way the industry is set up, I can present it as a therapeutic horticulture if we hit on the horticulture. So as we go through this deal activity here shortly, you're going to see it's going to be 80% or more on the horticulture side, because that's what I do. And what was very fascinating and awesome this week is I took my wife on a date to one of my new clients. They're actually going to be beta testing this program that we're going to go over, but I'm going to be delivering the workshop. So I plan on doing about half a dozen live workshops running over this material with me presenting or facilitating. And then the rest of them, like I said, are going to be dropped in the mail. And I'm really trying to solve and test that out to see if I can give this kit to a facilitator, whether they be a life enrichment director, maybe even a caretaker. And my big vision is these can get shipped to anybody. So let's say you have a parent that is suffering from dementia. I can mail it straight to your house, and you can actually run through this activity. So that's the end goal. Not necessarily has to be at a senior living community. Also, since I work with children in therapeutic communities, including SLP and OT, that's occupational therapy and speech language pathology, I do intend to adapt this for children too. So I can tell you from my experience this year, my communities, the clients that I work with that are multi-generational, that they have the elderly, but they also have preschoolers. Those are some of the most exciting sessions or workshops to run, just because the amount of energy in the room. I can't even put it into words. You just have to take my. If you've been around preschoolers before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's been a real treat. So anyway, this is the deal program. So this, what you're looking at on the screen right now, is a diagram of a dill plant. It kind of talks about the different stages of the dill, and just so you can see what I got, I actually spent the last couple of days going out to harvest dill plant outside. So if you've never grown dill, you get some crazy looking seed heads like this. The nice part is that these are all dried out, so they're shelf stable. I could just put them in a package and I can ship them anywhere in Minnesota. There's a couple other ones. And I think I mentioned this last week, or recently. I haven't figured out how to transfer the smell through the internet yet. I'm hoping someday that will be developed so you can experience, but you'll have to take my word for it that all this dill in here, it's not overwhelming, but there's a very strong odor of dill in here, and that's a fantastic sensory part of this experience today. So what you see on the screen is that little handout that's going to come in the kits for the facilitators so they can guide. And I have it set up so even if you're not a horticulturalist or you're not a serious gardener, you have no background, and this is something that I hear all the time from wellness directors, life enrichment directors, activities directors. They're not gardeners, they don't garden at all, or they don't have a green thumb. That's typically what I hear is I don't have a green thumb. And that's okay, because that's my job. And I have to take this information, synthesize it, repackage it so somebody that doesn't have a lot of horticulture experience or gardening experience can run a program that's beneficial for their residents or their clients that they're working with. And I see a question over here. I'm going to check that out. Shawnee Gross says, will you offer this dill plant guide with less text for the preschool age? Uh, Most likely, but I haven't developed on that. That's appreciate that question. This isn't the same program that's going to be going out to the children. In fact, I haven't even started that because my priority right now is to get this out into the hands of the senior living communities. 80, 80 to 85% of my clients are senior living communities, so I have to take care of that first, and then at some point later, I'll work on getting this into the preschool or even the public school system. That's another option too. But actually, there's plenty of options. So this is the handout for that diagram. I'm gonna shift cameras now so you can see what this looks like up close, and that works. So that's fantastic. I always love when the tech works. You never know with a live stream. But these are these are the sheets that are going to be coming out with this. So it's not a lot, but there's basically one page for the facilitator, and I'll kind of shift this over so you can kind of read along. But it's got the title on there, the Saving Seeds for Spring, dill seed saving program. Now I have dill here today, and that's what we're going to go over. But the very awesome part about what I'm describing to you or explaining, and what we're going to go through is that we don't have to do just dill. Dill is a fantastic plant to start with as far as seed saving because the amount of seeds that you get per plant is fantastic. I have one Ducat dill plant right now supplying all the seeds that are in this grocery paper bag. So I don't know. There's probably at least 1,000 or more seeds in there, and I only picked off maybe 15 seed heads. It's not a lot. So I have a plant that's pumping out hundreds and hundreds of seeds. And what's cool about this plant is that these seed heads are perfect size for a resident or a participant. So it's just a good size. Of course, the seed heads are different, but as far as the number of seeds that you have for this activity, it works very well. But dill is not the only plant that I can do this with. There's plenty of other plants, and I'm sure you're already thinking about different plants that would suit this same purpose. If you look over my shoulder, you'll see another herb plant up there. I'll grab this and bring it closer so you can see this, but this is root beer hyssop. I've talked about this before. This is in a quarter-gallon grow bag, and then the seed heads on these are fantastic. So I'll get this so you can see this, but there are hundreds of seeds on each one of these spikes. And what's cool is that if you gently touch these spikes and then smell your fingers, you get that licorice or root beer smell. This is actually called root beer hyssop. So this is another plant too that I plan on incorporating into the seed saving program. But if you have herbs growing this year and it fits kind of that type of pattern or the architecture of this, drop it in the comments. There's some other herbs that I've already harvested and they're actively drying right now for this is cilantro. That's another plant that it just pumps out a ton of seeds. Some other root crops like radishes, that's another one that If you haven't let radishes go to seed, that's a magical experience just in and of itself, because you have this small little radish that's going to put out hundreds and hundreds of seeds. You get those pods, and then those pods are something that I can ship after they dry out too. Shawnee Grow says hyssop's a fun one. It absolutely is. Shawnee Grows also says this is great for covering engaging questions and life cycle parts of a plant, etc. Absolutely. And I'm going to come back to that here in a minute or so when I go over the second handout. But right on here, we'll just run down this. So this is the facilitator instructions, what they're going to get. So what's included for this beta test for the kits that I'm going to be shipping? They get 8 mature dill seed heads, so it'll be something like this in a plastic bag to contain all the seeds so they don't go all over the place. I was debating, and these are like the details that consume my mind. So if you've spent any time watching my YouTube channels or interacting with me, this is all I think about. So eat, breathe, sleep. I have dreams about this. I woke up this morning and my subconscious was working even while I was sleeping, so I had another idea of what to incorporate in these kits. But one of those details I had to figure out is, do I put them in an individual baggie like this, or do we put all of the harvested dill heads into one big bag? And the answer is obvious. They got to be in individual ones, because even with how I harvested, as the plant dries, those seeds are naturally going to drop off. And you can see on here how there are a couple already separated from that seed head, and that's perfectly fine. But it's going to be easier for the participant of this activity to have their own seed head rather than fishing seeds out of the bottom of a larger bag. So those are the details that I'm focusing on. So with the kit, 8 mature dill seed heads, 8 clear seed storage bags, and this is the funny story I wanted to share with you. My wife crochets, and she's very good at it. I think it started around COVID 2020, so everybody was picking up their new hobbies, I guess. And I think everybody in the family now has a blanket, hats. She's done some sweaters. I'm only saying this or setting this up because she typically goes to Michael's. I think Joanne Fabrics was another one, but they went bankrupt. They went out of business this year. So sometimes I'll accompany her, and I did go with one time to Michael's to pick out the yarn for my blanket. So that was fun. I picked out army colors, green and black, and I think some silver. It turned out very well. I'm only bringing this up because yesterday I asked her if she needed to go to Michael's, and I never thought I'd hear myself say that, but I needed to get something like this. So I'm showing you on the screen. I needed something like this and something like this to do this activity, to where we could put seeds in this plastic bag and then tuck them into this envelope right here. So what was cool about this experience is that I got a bag of 200. I think it's 200 of these little plastic bags. And if you're ever looking for something like this, if you go to Michael's, this is like over where their beads are. So the bead crafts, you'll see something like this. That's where I got these. And then the next aisle over had the envelopes like this, the craft envelopes. So that was a fun little trip yesterday. So we got these right here, and then back to the what's included. Let's see, we had the 8 seed information inserts. So part of this is, and I'm going to share more about this when I get to this next handout right here, is that I've had many experiences this year with my clients, residents at senior living, that I've been trying to figure out how I can replicate the experience. So I'll give you an example, and this is actually from this week. This one particular location, I started working with them in May. So in May, we did a potting activity where I brought a bunch of seedlings, mostly herbs, edible flowers, and then what else did we have in there? So small vegetables, or cool looking lettuce, leafy greens like red deer tongue is just a cool looking lettuce, new red fire lettuce, stuff like that. Well, this particular resident potted up a red nasturtium. What I didn't know is that after I left, after that workshop, she had handed off the quarter gallon grow bag, like you see on my shoulder, with the nasturtium baby plant to her daughter, who then took it home, planted it, and then has been sending photos and videos back to her mom at the senior living community. I was completely unaware of this. So this was in May, this was months ago. This last week, when I showed up to do the August workshop, before we even started, she came up to me with this huge grin, told me all about the plant that we had transplanted in May, and she said she was ecstatic because it's gotten this big. They've been able to make multiple harvests off it, and by they, that's her daughter sharing with her too, and she was just completely excited, and has like, thank you so much for telling me. I had no idea that that made my week, honestly. So we do the August program. When we got done, one of the caretakers comes up to me and says, Andy, I got something to show you. So she pulls up her smartphone and shows me the photos of those plants from May. And my jaw hit the floor because not only do we have the participant, the resident that I worked with, to transplant that seedling in May of this year, but we've now involved the family, and we've also involved the staff at this facility. And there's probably more people involved too that I'm unaware of. But that social connection is what I'm trying to reinforce and create those opportunities to make it very easy for residents at the senior living centers to share with friends and family and others in their community. It's a huge impact in their lives, and the joy that uh, that resident expressed to me and telling me about the plant's journey is all the evidence I need about how well that program worked. So with this deal seed saving program, this is something that I incorporate into this to sort of replicate or set the scenario for these residents to share with others. So one of those is this right here with the insert into these envelopes where we have the deal. And like I said, we can substitute this with other herbs, and I plan on doing that at some point. But with the deal, you have the botanical name. They were these seeds were saved by, so this is going to be the participant, whomever that is. And then 4, so if they want to share these with grandchildren or their children, a couple ideas I had in my mind, and I have a rough idea of how stuff is going to go or how they're going to be used, but honestly, I don't fully know. And that's the fun part about doing these tests, is to see how they're used, or how the programs unfold. But for this one, they can gift these to grandchildren or friends of family. I was thinking with the size of this, could be used as a stocking stuffer or a gift in the holidays, or just somebody stops by, they can hand them off or whatnot. Uh, but that's the intent behind this little insert here. Also, it's got the name of my company and then the date that the seeds were saved, just for the record, anybody that's going to use these seeds going forward. And you probably know this if you've been gardening for a while. Seeds will last if they're dried in a good environment. So dried, not like overly humid, they'll last for plenty of years. In fact, the popcorn I'm growing this year, most of those seeds are 3 to 4 years. I don't have 100% stand, and that's okay, because not all seeds are going to be viable, but uh, seeds will last quite a long time. And I see a couple questions or comments that I wanted to touch on really quick. So those small baggies are often available cheaply at a specific herbal facility that cannot be mentioned on YouTube. I thought that's what it was. That's why I wanted to say that. Thank you for sharing that. These are relatively, I mean, they're inexpensive. They're pennies per, I want to say they're like 3 or 4 cents per bag. So that's fine. Um, Bring ground cherries into the program. Yeah, that would probably be a good one. Ground cherries are fun just for the sensory, where you get that papery skin. It's a very cool experience. But anyway, back to this. So we got the seed information inserts. I'll move this over to the camera. Facilitator demonstration video. I don't have that done today. In fact, I'm going to be filming that later today and tomorrow. But I'm going to have a link and then a QR code. But I will have the link, so whomever wants to see that demo video, I'm actually going to demo this. I did get some video footage earlier this week when I was harvesting some of these seed heads off the dill, because I wanted whoever's going to be using these kits to see what that plant looked like. The plant's, I don't know, 3.5 feet tall, but it's got probably 100 seed heads on it right now. Okay, then I have some instructions and some other helpful information to the facilitator. This is what's included in the kit. This is for the facilitator or provider. They're going to provide table and seating, small trays or paper plates. Right here, I have a paper plate for this, and that's probably going to be a crucial part, just so seeds don't go flying everywhere. Optional colored pencils, crayons, or markers, so they can not only fill out the little insert right here, but also decorate this. And that's why I specifically had some craft paper like this, because they can draw or do whatever they want on here on that. I have some other ones that are going to be white colored, so I'm experimenting with details again. Is this going to be an acceptable type of envelope for this, or should we go with the white? I don't know yet, but I'm going to be testing both of those options. And I see Dave from Bowtie Life is here, so nice to see you. And David, just to share with you real quick, we're going through a new program that I'm developing. So if you see anything that looks odd, let me know. That's what I'm here to get all the hiccups out of the program before I ship it. Dave's asking if I'm using Ninja camera. Of course, I am using Ninja. Of course. Okay, so back to this, the facilitator sheet. Before you begin, place one dill seed head, clear bag, envelope, and seed information insert at each participant's place. So this is kind of what we have here, just as a demo on how this is going to look. And other small things, small details I'm going to be testing is this bag too small? I don't know, but that is one thing I thought about is for those with fine motor skills that aren't as good as they were in their youth, this might be really tough. So if that's the case, then I might have to go with a different design on a bag or just a different setup. But that's something that we're going to be testing with the beta test facilities. Those are the mail kits that I'm not there. The ones that I'm going to be facilitating, those live workshops, I'll be able to tell very quickly if these are too small or if these are more appropriate for like assisted living, independent living, and then maybe we go with a different design for skilled nursing or whatnot like that. So back to the sheet. Just as a warning, some seeds may naturally release from the seed head during shipping. Save them. They are ready to be added to the participants' harvested seeds. And those are all going to be caught inside this baggie right here. Okay, so with the actual activity, so I'll move this a little closer so you can see this. Explore the dill seed head through sight, touch, and smell. So I did this past week. I was demoing a mint transplanting activity. And if you have children or you work with children, if you're in a school system or maybe preschool teacher, something like that, I'm going to share with you what went very well this week. Something that I'm increasingly coming aware of is that I haven't mastered it yet, but through my spreadsheet, that's why I have that on over my shoulder on the bulletin board, is that I have a spreadsheet for my planting calendar. And my planting calendar is probably going to look very different from yours. If you've been gardening for a while and you do multiple varieties, multiple plants with different life cycles, a spreadsheet really helps with organizing and telling me or you what date do I need to get these seeds started or transplants going or for my case with the mint, when do I need to start cloning mint plants? So one of those programs I ran this week was a mint propagation class with assisted living. I had seeds, something like this, and I actually put the seeds in a plastic bag. Uh, the dill seeds are large enough so most participants are going to be able to see these seeds. But if you've never planted mint from seed, you it is very tough. They are so small, and I wanted to exaggerate that or make a point. So I had 3 different plastic bags just like this, so easy to handle. If somebody drops it, it's not a big deal. But I wanted them to see that in one bag I had 6 mint seeds, and it was hard for me to even see them. So we kind of laughed at that. And then I had another bag with about maybe 50 or 60 seeds, and even then, it's still like very difficult to see them. And then I had another bag with a couple hundred, and then now you can start to see those mint seeds. But that's one way we can grow mint. With the second part of this equation for this program, I had a tray, so one of my seedling trays that I had taken cuttings or clones from the mature mint plants. I had both of those there for the participants to see. So you have the seed, and then I explain how we don't have to wait on Mother Nature to germinate seeds and grow these mint plants out. We can shortcut this by taking cuttings off the mature plants, sticking them in potting soil, and then those plants will root. And if you've never done this with mint, my mint at about 75 to 80 degrees, it rooted in about a week and a half. So when I did this program this week, those clones were only about 2 weeks old, and that's one of those wild moments where I set it up to talk about how we can clone plants, and then I'd lift the tray so they could see all the roots on the bottom of it, and then I kept on tying it back to that time issue of we now have the same plant in 3 different points in time. You have the seed, just like this dill right here. We got the seed, we have a clone, and then we have the mature plant. So we got three different times for the same plant displayed, and it's a very good, very cool way to describe different ways of propagating or growing, but then to actually show the the timepiece of this is how this plant matures, and this is what we could do at different points in time with this plant in particular. So back to our deal. Explore the dill seed through sight, touch, and smell. So even through the bag, you can touch. And then as this plant dries, there's not going to be as strong of an odor. But right now, even with this plant, you can still get the dill scent, and you're gonna have to take my word for it because I can't translate that scent through the internet yet. But anyway, so that's that. The next part of this is gently remove the seeds with your fingers. So this is why we have the plates, and that's why I listed it on there. But we'll take this out. We can kind of kick out the seeds on here, and then now we can gently remove these seeds. So for those that need some fine motor skill practice, this is great for that. Something I learned this week, I had my first, it was a professional horticulture therapy networking event. And there's something they talked about doing hand on hand. So for those that might have a physical disability or fine motor skills aren't as great as they were in their youth, you can actually put your hand on their hand to help them guide them through the activity. I've done that a couple times. It works really well. Just have to let the participant know. First, you have to ask if that's okay. Then if they give you permission, you can go ahead and do the test. But this right here, what I'm doing, I'm just separating the seeds from the seed head. Get kind of the idea there. I might as well just finish this. So we got a couple more. On that sheet that I shared with you earlier, it talks about the seed heads on here. So that's something that the facilitator can talk about as the participants are removing the seeds of what these seeds look like, the different stages they go through as they're pulling the seeds off the seed head. Or if you really want to be fancy, the umbels. So we got all of our dill seeds here. And this is kind of what I imagined as a good number of seeds to put in the little bag. So now we got all of our seeds stripped off the seed head. You kind of shake these down to here. The next thing here is collect and examine the seeds. So you can touch these seeds. They still have quite a prominent scent to them too. So if you even smell these, you can smell the dill off there. And just like the herbs that I typically pass around at these workshops, they can do that too. So just me touching these dill seeds right now, I'm getting those oils off my fingers, and I can smell the dill on my fingers. So that's something else that you can interact with. Place the seeds in the clear bag and seal it. So this is the part that I'm not sure we're going to be trialing out here on how difficult this part is right here. So we got the seed bag open, and it might be a moot point. We'll find out when I get my feedback from, but most of these workshops in the senior living community, especially with the assisted living or maybe memory care, they'll have helpers there. Some of the communities I serve, they have a lot of volunteers, so this might not be an issue if you have like a helper actually open the bag and then the participant can drop the seeds in like that. So we got a few more seeds coming in there. As we're doing, or I'm finishing up here, the next step on this paper, probably can't see it from the camera angle, but we're gonna place this seed packet into that craft envelope. And I think I got about half a dozen seeds left here. There we go. So this is kind of what that looks like. So this is like, guess how many jelly beans are in the jar to win win a prize. How many seeds are in right now? And I don't know. I didn't count these up before the program, but take a guess. Put it in the chat. How many dill seeds do you think are in this little baggie right now? Okay, so the next part is place the seeds in the clear bag, seal it, and then complete the seed. Oh, let's see. Did we skip the place the seeds in the clear bag and seal it? Okay, I was going out of order. So we're done with that. That's sealed up. Complete the seed information insert. So we have this insert again, and I need to grab my pen that's right off the screen. And this is the part that I didn't have set up before we started. I'm still here. Okay. It probably got kicked underneath one of the other papers I have here off screen, but so these seeds were saved by Meg, Andy, and then 4, I'm gonna send these to Shawnee Grows. So don't give me your address now, but if you want this little kit, the stocking stuff for Shawnee, get with me after the live stream today. I can send these to you. But that's how this works. So we just packed up some dill seeds, and then I'm gonna gift this to Shawnee Grows. Who's that? All right, you saw that. Good. So we got done with the seed information insert. Now the next part is decorate or personalize the envelope if desired. So I'm gonna sign this envelope like I always do. I don't think you guys have seen how I sign my name, but you're gonna love this. I can guarantee. So this is the beginning of my face, always smiling. So we got the beginning of this, and then this is the punchline. So that's how I sign my name. There you go. All right. So we decorated the or personalize the envelope. Now we're gonna place the seed bag and the insert inside the envelope. So again, I don't know how this is gonna look in real life until we start running this, but that's why we do testing. So I cut these to make sure that these fit nicely in here, and I did test them. They'll fit both ways. So it can either go like that, whichever is easier. So that will go in there, and then I test fit these yesterday too. So we got all these seeds, and I see 70 dill seeds for a guess. So yeah, I'll have to count these and then figure out and can let you guys know next week. So this is kind of how they fit. So these envelopes will seal, or they can simply just do something like that. Or if they want to put like a sticker to close this or whatever, that would be supplied by the community. But that's basically it. So if we go back to this, uh, we're done with that part right there. On the back side of the sheet, talks about or follows up after the activity. Participants can keep their seeds or share them with someone special. And then we get into the conversation prompts. So every workshop I do is different depending on the community that I'm working at, depending on if it's assisted living, independent living, skilled nursing, uh, memory care, and even within those communities, especially memory care, no 2 days are the same. So one day they might be chatty, the next time I come, they're not as chatty, and it's just how it is. You meet them where they're at, and I run the workshop. But part of these experiences are making those connections. So I talked about how I've been trying to replicate or set it up so it's easier to share something like this, or plants in general, but also to make those connections to past. And I I don't live in a senior living community, but I could tell you from my third party perspective, the residents who have just newly moved into a senior living community, and I've seen this with assisted living and memory care, especially memory care, it's a brand new reality for them. So they may have lived on a farm, may have lived on an acreage, may lived in a suburban home for 40, 50, 60 years, and now their life is in a secured memory care unit. I can't imagine what that experience looks like or feels like because I've never been put in that situation. I can see that from a third party outside workshop vendor. And the best thing that I've been able to do or help uh, alleviate that transition is to make those connections to their past. And I've seen the biggest benefits from memory care, but really anybody in the senior living community, if I can present something like this, where a dill plant that somebody's grown dill or like that hyssop, probably not the hyssop, but I've seen it with the strawberry plants, the rhubarb, sugar snap peas, those plants that have a real emotional value and emotional connection to their past, or even if they didn't garden, but they loved helping their parents maybe work in the garden or help their mother with cooking a special meal or something like that. That's how these questions are kind of set up to make those connections. Or before I like to say for at least 1 hour during this workshop or maybe a 30-minute session, they're going to have a lot of joy and it's going to be a fantastic 30 or 60 minutes just thinking about those uh, beautiful, joyous past experiences. So some of these questions that we have on here is, what does the deal smell and feel like? So that earlier step of smelling the seed head and then rubbing the seeds goes with that. Have you grown or cooked with dill before? Usually when I'm running these workshops, all the workshops are different from month to month. But whatever plants that I have or whatever plant material I have, I always ask, have you grown this before? And especially with like strawberries, rhubarb, sugar snap peas, those tend to have the highest feedback just because those are some of the most popular plants here in Minnesota anyway. Especially with rhubarb, it's sort of the unofficial vegetable of Minnesota is rhubarb. And then the debate comes into or migrates into what's the best variety. So that's something else I would like to ask you right now too. If you grow rhubarb, what variety do you grow? Some of the ones I've heard, I personally grow Canadian Red. That's one that I have here. I also do McDonald. Strawberry rhubarb is another one that I hear a lot of. So strawberry rhubarb. But if you grow rhubarb, what type of variety do you have? Uh, so I see over in the chat, Jay was saying a plant-based sticker would be a cool touch, maybe a Meg sticker in the future. I I did think about that, and honestly, we're probably gonna have something like that. I appreciate you making that comment because I think we're probably gonna go there for the beta testing. I didn't want to add any complexity right now. The stuff that I'm trying to figure out is those details I talked about. Is this too small for what we're trying to accomplish with the bags and the envelopes? But yeah, I did think about the stickers. I almost grabbed a couple of sheets when I was at the craft shop yesterday, but I held off, and then we'll probably get there at some point when we start finalizing what this kit looks like. But more of these questions. Where did these seeds come from on the plant? And that goes back to that diagram that I showed earlier. What might happen when they're planted next spring? That's thinking about future when we start the spring seed sowing part of the journey or the experience. And then the big one, who might you like to share these seeds with? Okay, so then the next paragraph we have is adapt the experience. Not every participant needs to complete every step. Participants may harvest seeds independently, work with a helper, explore the deal through touch, smell, transfer loosened seeds, decorate an envelope, or simply join the conversation. So some participants, depending on the day, if they're having not so great a day, but they do want to participate, they may just want to show up and watch what others are doing, or they might chime in and talk about a past experience growing favorite fruit or vegetable, or maybe a dish that their family had. Or I don't know if I've shared this with y'all, but this was about a month ago. I was blown away because I was starting the workshop, and immediately I had two residents that told me about their Christmas cactus plants. So two residents, two separate Christmas cactus plants, and both of those Christmas cactus plants were over 75 years old. And my jaw hit the floor because one was over 100 years old, and I said, "Oh my!" I said, "You have a family genealogical heirloom that you've been caring for and nurturing for over a century. I can't make that up. Do any of you, or have you seen, heard, maybe in your own family, do you guys have any heirloom plants, house plants that you've been caring for decades or a century? It's incredible." Um, but okay, going right along with the sheet, engagement is the goal, not completion of every task. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, what I come in or intend to do with a workshop isn't always what we finish doing. And so that's kind of the fun part. I have to be able to pivot very quickly on these workshops sometimes. I try to leave it open so there's a lot of time to explore. And if we do go a different direction in the workshop, we'll still get something very valuable out of it without completely derailing the workshop. But that's something that I'm always used to pivoting or switching. Maybe we have a lot of questions about a certain type of plant, or somebody wants to make a comment about a plant that their family had or whatnot. So anyway, the next part, I'm going to have a short video URL here, and then the QR code. I don't have those finished, so those will be on the finished one. And then at the very bottom, we have from seed to seed. This deal began as a seed grew, flowered, and produced the seeds harvested today. Those seeds can begin the cycle again. Save them, share them, plant them, grow something together. And the grow something together, or the growing together, that's the tagline for MEGS. I got the website down here. So you've seen the sheet. This is the facilitator sheet. What do you think? Was anything confusing, or something didn't make sense? That's what I'd love to hear. Drop those in the comments. This last sheet, the handout, it's going to be a supplement that goes with what you saw over there. I'm going to move this over here too. But this is the Therapeutic Horticulture Engagement Supplement. I mentioned this briefly earlier about some of the things that I've incorporated. or like that hand over hand. This is stuff that if you garden or if you grow any type of house plants or outside gardening, you may not, you may have been doing, or um, you may have been unconsciously doing some of these activities. Or what I want to accomplish is expose you to what I do. And the more I get into the therapeutic horticulture um, world, the more I'm starting to understand this and how it relates with everyday activities. So, from the very beginning, when I started working with senior living communities this year, I think this was the first conversation I had with a director. Was they wanted me to hit 5 pillars, and this is common. Uh, I hear that sometimes they're amended, so there might be like 7 pillars, but they traditionally have all 5 of these pillars. So one of those first ones is a social pillar. We have an emotional pillar. I'm going to get back to the details on these, but physical pillar. So a physical, cognitive. So with the cognitive, this kind of goes hand in hand with the education part. So this sheet right here that I showed earlier, this is going to go with the cognitive part, or the light education. So we're not intending to turn this into a horticulture or botany class, but there is going to be a light education element to it because that's part of the workshop, part of the program. And then the last part is the sensory. So the sensory is that's my power move with what I do, because there are so many ways you can interact with these plants through sensory. So I shared that Rupert hyssop back there, but even with the dill, without opening that plastic bag, we can see the seeds, we can see the seed head. We can touch the seed head through the plastic bag, or we could take it out and start touching the seeds. The smell, so that dill, this week they'll still be able to get that smell from the dill. The sound, so even the dried plant material makes distinct sound. And then the taste. So that's not going to be part of this program, but how I run the workshops is some communities, what they'll do is they will either bring prepared food or a snack that's related to the plants that I'm bringing. Case in point, when I did I think it was a July program, I brought different types of cucumbers. So we had some residents harvest the cucumbers off the plants I brought in containers, of course. And then they had other cucumbers that they sliced up, brought some ranch to dip, and then participants were able to snack on fresh cucumbers while I was talking about the cucumber plant. So that's kind of how that ties into that. But for each part of these sections, these pillars, I want to talk about this first paragraph up here too, just to set this up. This horticulture activity provides opportunities for engagement across multiple domains, or those pillars as I described them. Participants may engage differently depending on their abilities, interests, and level of support. So with the social aspect right here, just some examples. Sharing gardening, cooking, and seasonal memories. I love running these programs at senior living communities because they have decades more experience than I ever will. So I think it was earlier this week, somebody asked what I was going to be teaching. I said, well, I'm going to talk for the first couple of minutes and then I'm going to shut up, because usually how these go is I introduce the topic and then you all teach me the program. And for one very quick example, I can't remember if I shared this with you guys, but I had a resident that was talking about his father who grew up during the Great Depression, and they used squash flowers as meals. So they actually, he gave me the recipe. They'd use egg, flour, and then oh, they would uh, they would fry these squash flowers and then serve those as a meal. I was completely unaware. I think one day, probably later, I should do it soon because I still have actively growing squash plants. But replicate that recipe and then do a YouTube video on it. But squash flowers, I had no idea. The emotional part. So some examples I've seen are those emotional ties to plants that come from years of growing or even childhood memories. So those rhubarb plants and strawberries, again, that's the biggest thing I've seen for emotional. Connecting with familiar gardening or food related experiences. Yeah, I've seen that's very powerful. The physical, well, as mentioned earlier about the fine motor skills, this is where this comes into the play right here. grasping and stabilizing the dill stem or seed head, pinching and removing individual seeds. And what I intend to do with this handout supplement right here is not just give generic like social, emotional, physical, to give actual specific tasks during the program. So a facilitator could say, oh, pinching and removing individual seeds. If a resident or participant needs some help with that or some practice, that's a task you can do or focus on. The cognitive, kind of went over that, comparing seeds and plant structures, following the sequence from seed head to finished packet, and that's all laid out on that other program display over there. And then the sensory, I went over that. Participants do not need to complete every step to have a meaningful experience. The activity can be simplified, supported, or expanded to match individual abilities and interests. Again, I put on this one, engagement is the goal, not completion of every task. So that's the program. What do you think? Like I said, I typically, after we get done with the live streams, I go back and I read everything. So if you drop some things that maybe didn't make sense or need some more clarification, I will see those after the live stream today. So, but that's that. So Shawnee Grows, if you want a dill seed stocking stuffer, uh, I'll email you after the program and I can mail that to you. Or if you're going to go to the state fair here next week, we're planning to go to the Minnesota State Fair. And that's something I can share with you all too, is that I'm curious to know, in your state or your geographic location, do you have a large fair? So I'm not sure if Minnesota is the largest. I've always heard it's kind of a battle between Iowa and Minnesota. But Minnesota has a massive state fair. I plan on doing a live stream at some point, just because why not? If you've never seen 150,000, 200,000 people within, I don't know how many acres the Minnesota State Fairgrounds are, but from a distance, it just looks like an ant colony of humans. It's the first time I went to the Minnesota State Fair, I think I just froze just to take in the scene of just tens of thousands of people on a street. I'd never seen anything like that before. But okay, Shai says I would not be at the state fair. Okay, fair enough. I thought I'd ask, but yeah, I always like to go. So some of the favorites for us, we always go into the horticulture building because that's where you get to see the largest pumpkin. And if you're watching my live stream now and you don't watch the Urban Gardener, that's at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Enoch over there is growing one of the gigantic pumpkins. So at the Minnesota State Fair in the horticulture building, you get to see the gigantic pumpkins. You also get to see all the other fruits and vegetables on display, like the peppers, the hot peppers, the super hot peppers, different types of squash, all sorts of awesome stuff. And then they have other parts of that horticulture building. One wing of that horticulture building has the Minnesota Department of Agriculture and then Minnesota Grown. So Minnesota has its own label for growers. I did not renew it this year because I'm not selling retail anymore, retail potted plants. But up until this year, I did pay for the Minnesota Grown license, which means I can put that Minnesota Grown label on my container plants, which I did in the past, but not this year. I'm only saying that because I think it's 3 years ago, the state asked all of us Minnesota grown license holders if we'd like to display our products at the Minnesota State Fair. And I said, yeah, why not? I'll try it. I didn't think I was going to be able to get in, but I had such a novel product with the grow bag container bags that I was actually able to set up a little mock. It was like a 2 foot by 3 foot raised cedar bed. It's like a really small replica of the large cedar beds that I do. And then I had a cayenne pepper plant, purple cayenne, because it's a beautiful ornamental pepper plant. I tried nasturtiums, and then I found very quickly, if you're wondering if nasturtiums like partial shade, they do not. So my nasturtiums lasted about 4 days, and when we went to the state fair to check on the plants, I realized that I need to pull these nasturtiums out because they need full sun. They're not going to be happy in the shade. And I think I replaced them with a leafy green, if I remember correctly. But if you're in Minnesota, if you want to see tens of thousands, 100,000 people in a small area, Minnesota State Fair, that's my plug. They did not pay me for the endorsement too. But yeah. So that's the program for today. That's the kit that we're working on. It's going out Monday. I think next week or probably 2 weeks from now, I'll give you updates because by then I should be getting some feedback. I'll have already run, I think, one demo session on this kit activity, and yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think I went to bed about 1:30 this morning because that it may not look like a lot of work from the outside, but I can guarantee what I just showed you, that was hours of research, development, fine tuning, just cutting. It was mostly cutting words off the page because I don't like to have more than one page. I like to have one sheet where it's just front and back, and then that gets the point across. So, but anyway, thank you for joining me today. I hope you like something different, and that was definitely a gardening experience that I wanted to share with you. So, without that further ado, I'd like to say have a fantastic week, and I hope you're having a wonderful garden or growing experience in the month of August. So I'll see you next time.